Hi everybody, I'm Sam Euston, and today we have the opportunity to talk with a wonderful Bodega firefighter, and she has been involved in Bodega Volunteer Fire Department for 9 years.
Coming up to 9 years this year.
Coming up. So Shannon Diez is here today. She's the training coordinator for the fire department. And she's going to tell us a little bit about herself. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about home preparedness for fire safety. So how did you become a volunteer firefighter?
It was kind of a family thing. My parents were in the fire department. In this community, it's what you do when you reach the age of 18, when you can become part of the fire department. Everybody just kind of joins up. So I turned 18. And I had a girlfriend that was going through the volunteer academy as well. And she said, Shannon, come do it with me. And I went through the academy with her. And that was pretty much it for me. I decided that was what I wanted to do for the community.
Wow, that's great. So how did you become a training coordinator? Was there some additional training that you had to do?
Not really. I've taken a lot of classes. Pretty much anything fire related. I was like, yeah, sign me up. I'll take that class. I'll take that class. I really enjoy it on a personal level, not necessarily on a level that I want to make money. So when the opportunity came up to start taking and participating more in planning what we wanted to train on and making our trainings fun and educational at the same time, I jumped for the opportunity. Wow. And so that's kind of how I took over.
And I just found out that she's also just completed her paramedic training.
Correct. Yeah, I just finished a 2-year paramedic program. It took me a couple years to finally get to do it and then to get through it, but it was good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I've asked Shannon if she could take just a few minutes to go over some home preparedness and fire safety guidelines that we should be following, because this is right now when we're filming this is this is in the summer. It can be the height of wildfire seasons. We're having incredible disasters happening in Colorado with wildfires. And we had in 2010 a massive fire here. So one of the things to do is we want you to be as prepared as you can possibly be. So Shannon's going to go over a couple points. Some of the things we've talked about prior to we started taping is what does it take to have an emergency plan? So Shannon, what do you see as a firefighter? What do you think that we need to know?
It's almost as basic as, what can I do to prepare my house so that me and my family can get out in a safe, efficient manner? It can be anything from making sure that your exits are not blocked with boxes. I know it's easy to kind of store stuff in front of doors that aren't being used, but you never know, in the heat of the moment, you may have to use that. So keep your exits unblocked. Make sure that you have windows that open, that you can pop the screens out. And go over it with your family beforehand. Take a walk through your house and say, okay, we can get out this window. We can't get out this window because there's a big bush outside. Well, maybe we should cut down that bush or lower it. So it's basically just doing a quick walk through your house. You don't even have to go online and look up, standards and stuff. Just what can you do to prepare your house so that you can get out safely?
So, and I think we talked about this at one point, which is people need to know how to shut their utilities off.
Yeah, that is a huge one. PG&E comes out every month, and you hate the PG&E when it comes out because you're going to get a bill in the mail. But take the time when he comes out or she to say, hey, how do I shut this off if you don't know how? And they will gladly show you how to shut off your own utilities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then we also need to know, well, let's talk about it. Fire extinguishers. Let me now.
Fire extinguishers are basic. You should have one in every room where there could be a possible flame or source of ignition. So kitchens, fireplaces, near your hot water heater, you should also have one in there. Garages, you should always have one in your garage as well.
How often do you have to look at it to make sure that they're recharged, or do they discharge over a period of time? I don't know.
My rule of thumb is to check it every year.
Okay.
Just look at your dial, make sure it's in the green, not in the recharged or the overcharged. Make sure it's in the green. Twist your pin around. Do not pull the pin out, but twist the pin around to make sure it's not caught. Make sure you don't have any cobwebs or dust or dirt that could, prevent the fire extinguisher from working properly, and make sure your hose is still connected good. That's the basics for that. You always want to make sure you have an ABC fire extinguisher. That way you can put out pretty much every type of small fires. If you don't know how to use it, you just look on it and you're going to have the instructions. It's easy as 1, 2, and 3. So it's pretty easy.
Okay, great. Wow, thanks. And we were just talking about this a minute ago, is having a smoke detector, but also having a smoke detector that is sensitive to carbon monoxide, right?
Correct. A lot of places, this is a new one. I haven't seen this one yet myself. I have 2 in my house. I have a regular smoke detector that sits up on the ceiling in every room that gets enclosed. And then I also have a carbon monoxide alarm or a detector that's in near my fireplace. Smoke alarms are really good for nighttime because you're asleep. You can't see the smoke, so the alarm is going to wake you up that there's some sort of smoke in the room. The difference with a carbon monoxide alarm is you can't see it. Carbon monoxide is invisible. So there's no telling that it's there like the smoke is. So that's why we have carbon monoxide alarms, because they will go off to alert you that there are gases in the room that's coming to a dangerous level.
Wow, okay. Hey, thank you. Okay, well, let's go on. Okay, now this is the thing.
Extension cords.
Extension cords, octopuses, things like that. Talk to us.
First thing when you buy an extension cord, don't plug it in together. So make sure.
That was a test.
Make sure when you buy an extension cord or you have one that you've had for a long time, you want to make sure the connections right here are still good. You don't want to have it frayed where you can see any of the inner workings. You don't want to have any missing prongs or any broken ones that are bent in. It just causes electricity to sometimes not conduct properly and can ignite. You also want to regularly check your extension cord for any cuts. A lot of times they'll get kinked and the rubber will start to break down, and that can also cause electricity to have an issue through them. And basically just keep the plug-in portion clear of dirt, and remember not to use them where there's a water source. That's pretty much about it with extension cords.
Okay, great. Okay, so now in doing my homework here, there was a thing that talked about having a whistle and having a compass.
Compasses are always really good. Whistles are great. People can hear whistles. If you are stuck in a building and you have your whistle, you can blow that whistle and people will be able to find you. People will be able to find you. It's also a good way to locate other family members. If you've been disconnected or lost one another, you can whistle to get closer to each other. A compass is always really good because you'll know the directions of north, south, east, and west. And okay, well, my house is here. Well, if I go south, I'm going to get to Bob's house. And so it's a good way, especially at night when it gets dark or if there's a lot of smoke you can't see very well. Compasses are good.
And then having a good flashlight. Of course, this is not a good example of one, but it is a flashlight and it is on a...
Yeah, I recommend a flashlight in every room, somewhere where everybody can reach it and where they know where it is. You never know when the power goes out, you don't want to bang into stuff to cause a medical aid. Flashlights are really good also for locating people too. You can flash your light, when you're stuck somewhere, it's going to illuminate the smoke a little bit so people can find you that way as well.
Good, okay. Ponchos. Having an emergency poncho?
Emergency ponchos, everybody should do a little emergency preparedness kit that you have stashed somewhere, whether it's in the kitchen or in the living room, somewhere where everybody knows where it is. It's easily accessible and anybody can grab it. And in that kit, ponchos are great. You can cover yourself from the rain, but it also will help insulate you. If it's cold, it'll keep the heat inside. Space blankets or blankets that fold up into tiny little squares, great, because they do the exact same thing. They will insulate you, they will keep you dry, and they will protect you from what's coming on around you.
Okay. And then where I read you're supposed to have some kind of emergency kit.
Emergency utensils.
Yes.
Utensils are always good. You can use the knife for various things. I noticed that on your flashlight, you had a knife set. That's really good too, because then you're able to use it to cut through things if necessary.
Oh, good. Okay. Now, let's see. Now, there was another thing that they got talked about is what kind of food and water that you should have. What is it like? You should have 1 gallon per person per 1 day?
Per day, yeah.
Per day.
The standard that I go by is enough food and water to be able to sustain me for 3 days.
Okay.
So that's water. It can be anything from canned food to dried food. Stuff that's easily packable, because if you're leaving your house, you're going to need to be able to take it with you. But definitely make sure you have enough water for you, yourself, and your family, and your pets.
Oh, right. And emergency care with pets.
Yeah, your pets. Make sure you know other people in the area. If you have animals such as horses or stuff like that, find a neighbor that has horses as well, and come up with a plan that say, hey, if something happens to me, can my horses come here? If my dog, gets lost, make sure they're tagged. That sort of thing, and let everybody in the area know the animals that you have. Another really good thing to do with your horses is on their halters to write your name and your phone number in case something really happens and you just have to let the gates open so that they can get away. It's great to have that identification on their halters.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have some more areas to go over. So where should we start? Electrical?
Let's start electrical.
Okay.
Space heaters. Everybody has them. It gets cold in the wintertime, and it's easy to just plug that heater in to keep yourself warm in small areas. Once again, before you plug them in, make sure your cords here are not frayed, and do not cover them with electrical tape if they are. Get a new one. Make sure you plug them in. Your area around your wall plug is clean. Check the connection on your heater to make sure it's not frayed as well. When you turn it on, start out low and bring it up high. Never leave it on while you're sleeping. And when you leave the house, always unplug it. Don't just turn it off, unplug it completely.
Good. Okay. Now, what about, but now we can plug these into extension cords, right?
You can plug those into extension cords. Plug them into surge protectors. That way, if there's a surge in electricity, you're not shooting a ton of electricity into it, which might cause it to explode or have problems.
Surge protector.
Surge protectors, they're great. They protect your things.
Now this is for electronics. Now is there a difference between? I know that the electronics they shut down faster, but do you recommend those
surge
so much?
protectors are surge protectors. I suggest and I encourage you to have them with anything that you're plugging in. Plug in. Another rule of thumb, though, you do not want to fill it all the way up with plugs. That'll cause it to overheat as well. Okay. So make sure you leave 1 or 2 open.
Okay, there we got it for surge protector. So one of the other areas that we should probably cover briefly at least are clothes dryers. One is to make sure that they have enough space from the back of the dryer to where the wall is, so that there's adequate ventilation. And the other thing is, don't have it ventilate into the room. Make sure that it's being ventilated outside. It has a filter on it that's capturing the lint and
clean your lint. Do not let your lint build up. Clean it every time you use your dryer. Clean out the lint.
Okay, good. All right, so we've covered that.
One more thing too that's on the lines of dryers is your hot water heater inside your house.
Yes.
Do not pile stuff around it either. Make sure the bottom where the flame is clear of debris, clothing, and stuff that gets piled down there. You also want to check your water heater to make sure it's not leaking. That's something that's very important as well.
Yeah, that would be a very important point. Fireplaces.
Yes, fireplaces. I know I mentioned earlier that you should always have a fire extinguisher near your fireplace. That's very important. You should also make sure you do not stack your wood, your kindling, or your newspaper to start it, if that's how you're starting it, right up against that fireplace. You want to make sure you have space for the heat to go and expand. You also need to make sure you have a barrier behind your fireplace between the wall and the fireplace. You need to have a fire-rated bricks or a fire-plated piece of material so that heat doesn't radiate constantly into the back of the wall. You want to make sure you keep it cleaned out so that the debris doesn't build up underneath. If you have an open hearth fireplace, you want to make sure you have a screen so you keep those little embers from flying out and hitting your couch, which will then ignite. You also want to make sure you clean your chimney every year, if not twice a year, if that's your only source of heat. You want to keep your chimney clean so that that creosote doesn't ignite.
Oh, good, good. You know, when you just mentioned that, I just thought storing flammable liquids.
Get rid of them. No, storing flammable liquids always comes up a little bit iffy because you have, you know, your Clorox and your drain cleaner that you want to keep in the sink, you know. You want to keep it separate from anything else. Obviously, you want to keep anything that's in reach of children, you want to keep locked up or moved out of the way. Garages are great places to store those because it tends to keep the temperature down because you don't want them getting too hot. But just make sure you don't store them all together, like in a box where they can mix together, because that can be dangerous.
Okay, and then if you have like lawnmowers and chainsaws, all sorts of different equipment that runs on gasoline, things like that, you want to be able to keep those like outside, away from away from the primary building, or what?
You know, you can go either way. What you want to do is when you store them, you want to make sure you're storing them safely. So you don't want to put them away while they're hot. If you're not going to use them for a while, drain the gas out of them. Make sure you drain it into a safe spot. Don't just pour it down the street. You know, you want to just keep it so that it's as safe as possible wherever you're storing it. You want to make sure that where you're storing gasoline and stuff, there is an air vent, so you don't want to put them in like a Ziploc box. You want to make sure that it has an airflow so those gases don't build up.
Good. And then one of the last things I can think of are safety with children.
Yeah, with kids, you need to be really, really careful. You know, anything that they can get their hands on that could potentially harm them, you gotta lock up, you gotta put up high. Always have the Center for Disease Control numbers pasted everywhere where someone can find them easily. Same thing goes for prescription medications or even any medications, even medications that are safe for children. You need to keep up and away from where they can reach them.
Okay. Is there any recommendations around elder care?
It kind of goes the exact same way. With them, you want to make sure you're accessible to their medications and stuff like that, but especially depending on their mental status and stuff, you want to make sure that everything is monitored. You know, you want to treat them the way they are, but you also need to remember to make everybody safe. I can't think of anything else. Just go home, go to your families, and figure out your escape plans or your safety routes and make sure that you are prepared. And, you know, always go down to your local fire department. If you think that you need help or you don't know what to do, go down to your local fire department and say, hey, you know, I have this thing at my house. Would you guys be interested in coming out and taking a look at it? Because we're as interested in keeping your house safe for us when we have to respond to you as you are for keeping your house safe for you.
Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Yay. Okay, thank you.